NASCAR isn't like most sports. In baseball, football, basketball, or really any other sport, if you root for a good team, they should win more than half the time. Good team, Carolina Panthers fans. I said good team. In NASCAR, the driver with the best winning percentage ever was Herb Thomas, who only won 21% of the races he entered. Winning in motorsports is just hard, plain and simple. Between the 40-ish other drivers on the track, mechanical issues, yellow flags, pit crew screw-ups, there are more ways to lose a race than to win one. And some drivers over the course of NASCAR history have found every single one of them before they found victory lane. It's ironic that the first notable driver we're talking about in this video is actually a Hall of Famer today, Buddy Baker. Long before the days of the Gray Ghost, the thousands of laps he led, and his 19 Winston Cup Series victories, Baker was a notorious bridesmaid, completing 216 total races over the course of 8 years before he finally broke through to win at Charlotte in 1967. How ironic that when he did finally accomplish this feat, he did so in dominant fashion, lapping the entire field that day. And it's not like Baker was never close beforehand. While not a consistent frontrunner, Baker did score a notable 28 top 5s before he finally won his first race. But after that first win, Baker would continue to rack them up for years to come, turning a forgettable career into a Hall of Fame career. To put this in a modern day perspective, this would be like if Michael McDowell suddenly started winning 2 to 4 races a year consistently after he won the Daytona 500 in 2021. Which seems like a nice segue into McDowell himself. McDowell's win in the 2021 Daytona 500 was his first in 358 career Cup Series starts. For more than a decade, it seemed like Michael McDowell's career would be remembered for, hey, wasn't he that guy that crashed in Texas qualifying in 2008? For years after that violent wreck in his rookie year, it truly did seem like that was all he'd ever be known for, as McDowell was just a start and park driver who couldn't find stable ground until he finally joined Front Row Motorsports in 2018. From there, he would quietly help build the backmarker team into a consistent mid-pack contender. On top of that, McDowell proved himself to be a fantastic superspeedway racer. He scored his first career top 5 at Daytona in 2017, scored 2 more top 5s at Daytona and Talladega in 2019, and on the last lap of the Daytona 500 in 2021, he finally found the perfect storm that he had been waiting for. Biding his time in third place, he just had to wait for the Penske duo in front of him to cause their own demise. And as the caution lights flashed, after 13 years, Michael McDowell could finally taste victory. He hadn't even had a runner-up finish until this point. In fact, he never finished second until Sonoma in 2024, which somehow feels even more impressive. But after that initial win, McDowell has become a fringe playoff contender in most years, and even scored a second, more impressive victory at the Brickyard in 2023. And now, he's been signed to the up-and-coming team of Spire Motorsports. It'll be interesting to watch him in these last few seasons of his Cup Series career, as it seems like he could potentially mirror another driver who didn't break into victory lane until the 1994 Daytona 500, Sterling Marlin. Sterling Marlin, in a way, feels like a hybrid of the previous two drivers we've discussed. Like McDowell, Marlin started hundreds of races before finally notching his first win in the sport's biggest race. And like Buddy Baker, Sterling Marlin spent nearly a decade running in the top 5 and top 10 before he finally won. He actually scored a staggering 9 runner-up finishes before finally winning his first race. The only drivers who ever had more runner-up finishes before getting their first win were Harry Gant with 10 and James Hilton with 12. And if you count the Xfinity Series, Sheldon Creed with like 1 million. Sterling must have been stockpiling years of good luck from all those runner-up finishes though, as his second career win would be in, you guessed it, the very next year's Daytona 500, holding off none other than Dale Earnhardt in the process. And after 2 more superspeedway wins in 1996, Marlin caught the attention of team owners Felix Sabates and Chip Ganassi, who would put him in the number 40 Coors car for the rest of his competitive days. Nobody would have guessed that the guy who went winless in his first 279 starts would eventually become a championship contender at the age of 44, as Marlin finished 3rd in points in 2001 and held the points lead for 24 consecutive weeks in 2002 before a hard crash at Kansas late in the season forced him out of the seat with a cracked vertebrae, prematurely ending his run towards the Winston Cup Championship. And in 2023, despite having one of the slowest starts to a career in NASCAR history, Sterling Marlin was formally named one of NASCAR's 75 greatest drivers. But one driver who trumps all by a country mile when it comes to waiting for a first win is Michael Waltrip. It can't be easy being the brother of an 84-time winning Hall of Famer, but that shadow must feel so much darker when it takes you 16 entire years and 463 starts to win your first race. He even won an all-star race in 1996 before he won an actual points race. This is by all means an unbreakable NASCAR record. No driver today would be allowed to start that many races without winning, except maybe Cody Ware. JJ Yeley would have to come back and drive 3 more full-time seasons before he even had a chance to break this record. And to make matters all the worse, when Mikey finally did win his first race in the 2001 Daytona 500, much like Marlin and McDowell, he couldn't even celebrate with the car owner that made it possible. If not for the fact that Mikey won another Daytona 500 only 2 years later, you might think that Michael Waltrip has one of the most cursed NASCAR careers. But unfortunately, this isn't the worst it gets. Some drivers never get to experience victory in NASCAR, and no driver experienced this recurring pain like JD McDuffie, a man who made 653 Cup Series starts and didn't just never win, but never finished on the lead lap. And it's not like he was a terrible driver either. He had more than 100 top 10 finishes. That's actually double what Michael McDowell has in a similar amount of starts. JD was just a guy who raced in old school NASCAR before the days of close plate racing and green-white checkers or lucky dogs. It was so much harder for a guy of his caliber to win. If JD McDuffie made that same number of starts in today's Cup Series with that same number of top 10s, then yeah, he would have stumbled into victory lane off of sheer luck at least a few times. But in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, it just didn't happen that much, if at all. Though for a more recent example, Matt DiBenedetto certainly comes to mind. A journeyman driver, Matty D hopped from Startin Park to Startin Park before he finally caught his big break with Levine Family Racing in 2019. He immediately proved to be a good hire, as he dominated the 2019 Daytona 500, but was sadly caught up in a wreck late in the race. He would go on to have 2 more unexpected top 5s that year at Sonoma and New Hampshire before he nearly stunned the world with a win at the Bristol Night Race that year. The same track where he impressed everyone with the 6th place finish in BK Racing Equipment in 2016. But after making contact with Ryan Newman in the closing laps, DiBenedetto's car faded fast, and he was ultimately caught and passed by Denny Hamlin. In 2020, after transitioning to Wood Brothers Racing, Matty D posted 2 more runner-up finishes at both Las Vegas races, the latter of which he probably should have won but was outdueled by Kurt Busch in a late race restart. He nearly won again the next week at Talladega, but was penalized by NASCAR for forcing William Byron and Denny Hamlin below the yellow line. And again at Talladega in the spring, as he looked to be in control of the race coming to the white flag, but didn't block the correct lane, giving the win to Brad Keselowski. Matty D would eventually score a NASCAR win at Talladega in the Truck Series in 2022, but after so many close calls, he still hasn't gotten his redemption in the Cup Series. But what's more aggravating than never experiencing victory? Well, arguably, it's winning once and then having to wait an incredibly long time to experience it again. Jeff Burton went 175 starts between wins in 2001 and 2006, and that was entirely driving for the top-tier teams of Roush and RCR. Despite his storied career that eventually included 21 wins, Burton just couldn't find a way to break through for 5 whole years. In that 5-year gap, he only had 3 runner-up finishes too, coming at Daytona, Bristol, and Chicagoland. Burton would unfortunately end his career with an even longer drought, going winless in his last 189 starts after notching his final victory at Charlotte in 2008. Burton was a consistent driver, just not often a winning driver in the last half of his career. Clint Boyer went even further, with it taking 190 starts before he could experience victory again after Charlotte in 2012. After spending some time in backmarker purgatory, he would win very quickly into his Stewart-Haas tenure, finally notching a win at Martinsville and taking home the grandfather clock. Ricky Stenhouse won 199 starts between wins, fittingly enough with both wins coming at Daytona in 2017 and 2023. And yet another MWR driver and future Hall of Famer experienced an incredibly long winless drought, as Martin Truex Jr. went winless in 218 races between his first win at Dover in 2007 and his second win at Sonoma in 2013. Who would have guessed that after 10 years at the top level and only 2 victories, that Truex would eventually rattle off 32 more and a Cup Series championship? Chris Buescher likewise broke an incredibly long winless drought of 222 races in 2022, winning the Bristol Night Race 6 years after a fog-shortened race at Pocono in 2016. But just barely edging out Chris Buescher for the longest snapped winless drought of all time is none other than Bill Elliott, who surprisingly didn't win any races between 1994 and 2001, as Elliott struggled for years trying to get his own team of Bill Elliott Racing up to par. But after Ray Evernham signed Elliott in 2001, Bill immediately became competitive again, winning the final race of the season at Homestead in 2001, and surprisingly, he would win 3 more times before closing out his full-time career. As of making this video, only one driver even remotely has a chance to potentially break Bill Elliott's all-time record, Justin Haley, who is sitting at 141 starts since his last win at the 2019 Summer Daytona race, which was conveniently lightning shortened. Hopefully the next time Haley visits Victory Lane, he won't have to catch lightning in a bottle a second time. And if Spire continues to improve as they have these last few years, maybe that second win is closer than we think. But still, Justin Haley would have to start every race for the next 3 years before winning to claim Awesome Bill's not-so-awesome record. So those are just a few of the NASCAR drivers who struggled to win the most. Can you think of any others? Be sure to leave them in the comment section down below. But don't forget to leave a like on this video if you enjoyed, subscribe for more videos just like this one, and check out dailydownforce.com for more awesome NASCAR content.